Dr. Paul,
You already got something.
many libertarians oppose laws at all levels of government against so-called same-sex marriages and other matters such as prostitution and illegal drugs. What is your view?
Well, first off, this is a very important question because libertarian sometimes is misconstrued. Libertarian means liberty. If you believe in liberty, you're a libertarian. The best libertarians that we've ever had in this country were our founding fathers. They believed in civil liberties, economic liberties, and they believed in a non-interventionist foreign policy. They wanted peace and trade. So this is all good. But the inference here about marriage and prostitution and drugs, they never addressed it. There's no federal authority, no federal government authority, no constitutional authority to deal with those problems. There's no prohibitions for the states to do it, so that is perfectly all right. But what we as conservatives must remember, if you're willing to use the strong arm of government to regulate things that are negative, that you don't like and you find abhorrent, you set the stage for regulating your religion, your schools, and everything else, because that's the principle. The First Amendment wasn't written to protect non-controversial speech. It was written to protect controversial speech so that we don't lose our right to go to church and run our schools. This is key. On the issue of drugs, we have spent nearly $500 billion on the war on drugs since the 1970s. Total failure. Someday we have to admit it. Today we have the federal government going into states that have legal medical marijuana, arresting people, undermining state laws, arresting people who use marijuana when they're dying with cancer and AIDS, and it's done with as a conservative compassionate conservative. And it doesn't work. What it does, it removes the ability of the states to do these things. It also introduces the idea it's the federal government that will rule whether you get to take vitamins and alternative medical care or whatever. Most of our history, believe it or not, had no drug laws. Prohibition has been an absolute failure for alcohol. Drug addiction is a medical problem. It's not a problem of the law.
This moves us to our final segment, where we will hear your closing statements. And Dr. Ron Paul, you have 4 minutes for your closing statement.
Thank you. We have been blessed to be able to live in the greatest country in the world. We've had the best contract between the people and the government, but we're losing it, and we have to realize that. We have resorted to going to Washington for everything. We cannot go to Washington to dictate to us how we improve our personal behavior. You don't dictate, you don't legislate virtue. In a free society, you do that from the people, from your family, your friends, and your neighbors, but not in the federal government. Also, you can't legislate economic fairness like so many want to do. Freedom means freedom. It means the government should be very small. Also, although we have many good qualities, if you accept the principle that we can promote our qualities and force them on other people at risk, you're in big trouble. Because there is a true phenomenon called blowback, and people don't like to have their countries occupied, and they will resent it, and we will suffer the consequences from this. In the last several years, we as a party and as a country, we have suffered because the conservative movement has been taken over by the neoconservatives, and they're not conservatives at all. They don't believe in limited government. They believe in entitlements. They also believe in the Woodrow Wilson's philosophy of making the world safe for democracy, run around the world and forcing ourselves and bankrupting this country. We're spending nearly $1 trillion a year overseas, and this country's in bad shape financially. So we need to decide what we're going to do. Are we going to live within the law, or are we going to pretend the government can take care of everything possible? We are now $9 trillion in debt. We have a dollar that's crashing, and we keep financing this by taxing, borrowing, and then what do we resort to? We resort to printing the money. We should look to the Constitution. We should make sure that we get rid of our central bank, the Federal Reserve, and have only gold and silver as legal tender.